The point is to make the changes, right? We don't go buy a cookbook and say, oh, these recipes look yummy. Well, a lot of us do, and never make it, never make any of the recipes.
Yeah.
We've got to get out of those patterns.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Joe Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter, and today Joe is interviewing Angela Anderson of angelaanderson.life. Joe found Angela via the podcast guest website, where we get most of our lovely American guests from. Coaches, entrepreneurs and health and wellness professionals work with Angela to rapidly scale beyond six figures and massively scale their cash flow. As an advanced Psych-K facilitator and former employee at the Psych-K Centre International, a leader in subconscious reprogramming, Angela teaches people how to leverage proven neuroscience and mind management tools to unlock and transform their self-limiting, self-sabotaging and negative beliefs about money. When she's not working with clients from all over the world, she spends her time with her husband and two boys in Colorado. Nestled at the base of Sangre de Cristo Mountains and overlooking the Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve, and travelling the world. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Angela Anderson of angelaanderson.life. Welcome, Angela. Great to have you with me.
Hello, Joe. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me as your guest on Power to Live.
Lovely, and we're sort of showing our productivity here by having had to reorganise a couple of times, and now fitting this in between two meetings. So you've dashed in and you're dashing out later. So we're quite impressed with our productivity today, aren't we?
Yes, and our organization and how easy we can be flexible and get things done.
Exactly, and we're obviously working from different parts of the world, so we've even managed to cope with the time difference. So far, so good. So, although yesterday's email to me did worry me a bit. I thought you thought we were talking yesterday, and I thought it could all go horribly wrong, but here we are. So tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Yeah, so I'm Angela Anderson, and underneath all of the accolades and all of the things that I've done on a professional basis, I am just a girl. I'm a woman. I've got two kids. They're 11 and 13 years old now. I'm married, and I am living my life and working on myself and growing and evolving just like everybody else who's listening to us today, Joe. And as a profession, going to an office and doing something for someone else and then separating my personal and professional life just wasn't ever a good fit for me. So the profession that I do is I help coaches and entrepreneurs reprogram their money code so that you can massively scale your cash flow, your growth, and your impact. And of course, that includes having stellar productivity and organization, well-being, energy, resilience, all the things that you teach and you support your listeners in this podcast.
Lovely.
And so, so what I found is that we do a lot of outside approaches to being more productive, right? How many planners have you bought over the years? And how many times have we done the New Year's resolutions and the dream boards and taking supplements for our energy, and all of that is very necessary, but we have an inner world that is huge and that greatly affects all of these things, all of these aspects in our lives. And so my business is actually centered around helping you tap into that inner world so that you can massively increase all of these areas of your life and your business.
And where are you based?
I'm in Colorado in the United States.
And do you work from home, from an office, from coffee shops?
Well, I know from my car. Yesterday,
Yes.
I actually worked out of my car. It's summertime here, and
Oh,
so I actually do have an office space that I'm going to be moving into once my children start school. So I'll be part-time at a professional office building, and then I have a home office as well. But what's nice about an internet business is that I can take the show on the road. So it's if I need
yeah.
to, then I will pull up at a park bench and have a beautiful green view and work with a client that way.
So funny you should say the working in the car bit and the fact that we're sort of cramming this interview in between other things. I had to do a radio show, a live radio show for Engage with Success, who I also podcast for on Monday from my car because I had to be 3 minutes from another appointment. And so I couldn't do it and then drive, to where I was going. And so it's warm here and I had to keep muting myself and opening the door to waft some cold air in. And when I muted myself the first time, I actually cut myself off and I was hosting it and just as the show started. So it didn't really work too well to begin with. So yeah, it's lovely. So first of all, for any listeners who have been thinking, what was that line at the beginning? It was from a film. It reminded me when you said, "I'm just a girl." I thought, where's that from? It's Notting Hill, just in case anyone was, racking their brains.
Oh, is it? Because I think, yeah, I think more of the song by Gwen Stefani where she sings,
Yes,
"I'm just a
yeah.
girl." Yeah,
Yes. So just in case anyone had one of those things where they were going to be, trying to remember, and also great to be talking to you today, particularly because I've just in the last week or so, I've just been really reflecting on our sort of inner game about how so much of what we do and so much of our sort of happiness and our success and our sort of work-life integration, all that sort of stuff is so driven by our sort of personal development and what we think and I see so many people, I think probably who well, I don't know what the common denominator is, but there's so many people who don't work on or are not self-aware perhaps of how important that is. And I've just been noticing it this last week. And so it's really great to be talking to you and to be able to sort of dig into that stuff today.
yeah. And we're not taught that, Joe. We are taught to hear what people say instead of watch their body language. We're taught to seeing is believing kind of stuff. And when we actually pull back the curtain and look at the science, cognitive psychologists and cognitive researchers show that we're only really in aware of 1 to 5% of what happens in our day. So that leads us to question, well, what about the other 95 to 99%? Where is that actually coming from? And like you said, it's actually is this inner world that we don't always have a hold on, and we're not aware of what's going on. But it's really controlling or ruining our lives in some circumstances, creating, manifesting, or not.
Yes, yeah. So let's dig a bit deeper into what you do by talking about why you do what you do. As with most of my guests, I'm sure there's a journey that has led to where you are now. So I don't know how far back you want to go, but why are you doing what you do now?
Yeah. Well, I love saying this because I've done a lot of different things in terms of professions and earning money and trying to find importance and, purpose. And the work that I do as a money code reprogrammer, Psych-K facilitator, it actually found me. And I didn't ever really think about when I was little, I wanted to be a nurse when I grew up. And in a way, I see myself as kind of like a nurse, because I really do help people to heal themselves and to find their own inner doctor, shall we say. And this role just happened to me. And I believe, Joe, that again, regardless of whether you look at life from a spiritual angle or a scientific angle, it's just language. The scientists will say that everything is energy and is vibrating, and like attracts like, and positive and negative charges and whatnot. And people with spiritual language will say, well, you attract what you are, and whatever. And I attracted the work that I do because of what I'm interested in, and what really resonates with me, which is personal development, doing something meaningful, having meaningful, deep connections with people. And so I was a bookkeeper at the Psych-K Center International and was learning about everything that they were all about. And it was absolutely fascinating to me. I felt like I was actually learning the truth about life, the truth about ourselves, and how to be aligned so that you can be the best version of yourself. Because step one is getting in control of our own lives, right? Kind of like Maslow, was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
You know, and getting your own needs met. And then everybody, though, studies show that after you have your own needs met, then you want to affect the greater world around you. So that's how the work found me, was just, again, just being a girl, trying to do her best, get a little space from being a stay-at-home mom all the time, to do something differently, and always being in alignment with some of these more deeper spiritual connections, more meaningful work. I was doing bookkeeping, and my client, Rob Williams, the originator of Psych-K, needed a bookkeeper, and I said, sure. And it just, it blew the doors wide open on my potential and where I'm at in my life right now.
So tell us a bit more about Psych-K and what that actually involves, and how you use it. That's quite a big, how long have we got? So maybe the shortened version.
Yeah, definitely. So Psych-K is a set of tools and processes that help you access your subconscious mind so that you can rewrite limiting programs into self-enhancing programs. And the result is living in a state of being more empowered, more in line with your true self, and being able to move powerfully forward in your life with all things positive and self-enhancing. And how this works is that we have 30 years of science and research that backs up the claim that the secret to life, Joe, is actually belief. That when you look at what is going on in your life or your business right now, and you specifically look at what's not working, like I don't know anybody who's perfect and who's got everything dialed out. And you don't have to you don't have to be a total mess either and be broken in order to want to improve your life. Everything could be going quite well, but it's in our nature to want to grow. Mother Nature always wants to grow and rejuvenate. So it's based on the fact that we look at our lives and right now as they are, and then we look at what we want our lives to be. And what is holding all of that up, even in the physical form, are our beliefs. So we've seen that with Psych-K is that when you can identify the beliefs that you want to change and that you want to have as running programs in your subconscious mind, then that is where the rubber hits the road, and you change the program in your mind in order to have a different output in your life.
And not a lot. Some people would say that this stuff was a bit woo-woo, and you said, about the spiritual sort of thing, people talking about, I don't know, the law of attraction, all that sort of stuff. But as you say, this is actually anchored in neuroscience. This is researched science. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we have a wonderful spokesperson, and in fact, he's known in the scientific world as well, and his name is Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he wrote a book called The Biology of Belief that basically proved that we are not slaves to our genetics, that there is an epigenome that is above the DNA layer, that actually determines how our biology functions. And it is the epigenetics is the science above the genes, which shows that, hey, you can affect that based on how you perceive the world around you. So you have these little receptors that poke out, and they perceive the world, and they make, draw judgments and conclusions. And as a result of that affects your biochemistry and how and your biochemistry, we can take it to, yes, that means your health, and the way that you sleep, and how you respond to food, but also part of your biochemistry are your values and your attitudes and your behaviors. And with that information, it just blew up in the scientific world many years ago. And in fact, he was an outcast for a while, because the old model of, the DNA model, and these are your genes and you're stuck with them, people were grasping onto that as, as if it were the truth, but we're showing that it's not. And so what he says is, hey, you know what? If you can rewrite your beliefs at the subconscious level, your programs, then you can affect your body's chemistry and your DNA. And Psych-K is a method and a modality that is a belief change modality that involves super learning, where you can rewrite these beliefs. So we have a lot of information out there, Joe, of, okay, so, I get this whole thing about my beliefs, and I get this whole thing about how powerful my subconscious mind is, and I get this whole thing about how I can affect my biology, but how do I do it? So that's where, we blow the lid off. Well, we've got clinical psychotherapy, and we've got emotional freedom technique, and we've got NLP, and we also have belief change modalities like energy psychology, and that is where Psych-K comes in. It's an energy psychology modality that you can use to quickly rewrite your beliefs, so that these programs that are running 90 to 95% of your life are life enhancing and not self-sabotaging.
I think the average person probably sort of understands that, or believes that belief is important, but I do wonder how, ironically, how deep that belief goes fundamentally, as in, people on the face of it would perhaps admit that, they have self-limiting beliefs, or they this is how it is and it can't improve, that, and they'd sort of rationally acknowledge that they believe that, and then perhaps agree that they could change, but perhaps not really believe that either. It's a real
it's a mind bender, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to think of a polite word for what I'd usually call that as. Exactly.
I know. It's hilarious too.
Where it goes, just even at the sort of really, I don't know, basic level's not the right word, but there was a TV program in the UK a few weeks ago, that was about putting small children, like 7-year-olds or 8 or 9-year-olds maybe, into organisations to work for a week, and their focus was around social mobility. And even just watching that, it was really obvious how some of the children, depending on their upbringing and I guess their biology and everything else, had very fixed views about what was possible for them to do. So there was one little boy whose mum was a bar lady, and they lived in quite a deprived area, and he was aspiring to be a barman. Now, that's not that that's a bad thing to do necessarily, but he couldn't see that there were any other options in his world, because he believed that that's all he could do. And just at that level, you can see how belief is really key. Never mind when you start thinking about, the subconscious sort of overriding the sort of conscious thinking as well.
Yeah. Well, when we're born, we can swim like dolphins, but as adults, we forget that, and it's programmed out of us. So for example, I always love to look at the analogy. An acorn tree is programmed to be an acorn tree, a seed, and it's got all of the codes it needs in order to grow into that. An embryo is programmed to become a baby. Now, of course, if something is introduced that compromises, then that can be compromised. But generally speaking, there are a lot of very healthy babies that are born on the planet without having the mother having to do a whole lot different other than eat and sleep a little more. Pretty healthy babies can be born under some stressful situations. And so one specific example is we're born to be able to swim like dolphins, but because adults, we don't believe that, we have become disconnected from some of those natural things. The parents then with their child, the minute that the child gets close to water, they start to fret. They get the little water wings out and they plop them in a floaty, and so they program fear of water and you can't swim into the child, which then is a great industry for swimming lessons. So there are a lot of things that we do because we're just passing it down from generation to generation as the human condition, the way that we are, that are actually very self-limiting. And like you said, with his child, and his whole world was watching his mother and her capabilities, and so that's what he took on for himself.
So tell us a bit more about how you work with your clients. What's the day look like? How does that pan out?
Yeah. So how I work with my clients is most people need some. If you're new to this information about beliefs, and like you said earlier, Joe, a lot of us don't realize that we have limiting beliefs and that they are really impacting our lives. But we do know that something needs to change. We know that we feel burned out, right? We know that we're 40 some years old and we think to ourselves, is this it? I want more. Like, there's got to be more to this thing. And that's when we start looking. And so that's when I encourage, if you're in that stage, if you're listening to this and you're in that stage, go to YouTube, start watching Bruce Lipton's videos, pick yourself up a copy of The Biology of Belief, go to the psychk.com website, go to my website, start listening to my interviews and reading some of the articles and getting in on the information that I have. It's very helpful, Joe, to educate ourselves because, we have two minds, our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, and we need to engage that conscious mind. It's the one that's creative and reads the books and says, okay, I'm going to make these changes and these are really good ideas. It's our subconscious mind that decides whether we're going to carry out any of these good ideas or not. So when you can get on board with, okay, there's something to this, subconscious mind beliefs, got it, I've got to change. Oh gosh, I have a whole book of limiting beliefs that I can write about myself. That is when you can shift into, okay, now how do I do this? Do I do clinical hypnotherapy? Do I begin a journaling practice? Do I read Think and Grow Rich and start, putting those principles that Napoleon Hill has for us? Do I get Psych-K sessions? What do I actually do? Because there's gathering information and convincing yourself, and then there's actually making the decision to begin to find out what's going to work for you to make changes. And the point is to make the changes, right? We don't go buy a cookbook and say, oh, these recipes look yummy. Well, a lot of us do, and never make it, never make any of the recipes. Yeah. You've got to get out of those patterns. You've got to go get the cookbook, make the recipes, enjoy it, and reap the benefits,
Yeah. And you're saying that really the key is that you need to work with your subconscious mind, and that's regardless of how you do that, as in there are various routes to do that, but it's that bit that's the important bit, not the just thinking and learning part of it.
Yes, because the research shows that 90 to 95% of your day is being controlled by your subconscious mind and the programs running in it. And so because if you think about it, we're mostly preoccupied with the future and the past, and meditation and mindfulness. So there's a lot of things out there that we're aware of where we can, you always hear, be in the moment. But when you really honestly look, we're hardly ever in the moment. We're thinking so many things, you can't possibly be aware of them. So if you worked with your subconscious mind and you said, okay, subconscious mind, I want you to automatically be like this, to believe in yourself, to know that you can attract abundance, know that your next best opportunity is right around the corner, have that confidence, then it's automatically just carrying that out 95% of your day. Kind of like how your hair grows and how your nails grow, and how your skin, you regenerate new cells every couple of years. Same thing.
So how can we apply that to things like our productivity, things like getting things done, things like, as you say, improving our financial situation, what tangible things can we do? Obviously, this is what you do. You're not going to cover it all in the next 10 minutes. But
Yeah. So the first thing is start with, because if you are convinced now that you've got to tap into that 95% of your mind that is actually running the show, then the first step is to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want? I want X amount of money in my bank account at all times. I want to pay my taxes every year with ease. I want to serve X amount of clients at this, price point per month with ease and flow. So you look at what you want. And then you look at, well, what are the beliefs there? What do I need to actually believe in order to be at this place? And for a lot of people, Joe, it's deserving. It's being worthy of it. It's having the time. It's having access to the tools and the knowledge and the resources. It's having the support. So you go from what you do want to what the beliefs are that are going to get you there. And then finally, when your beliefs are in line, then it's a lot easier to take action. You do have to take massive action, right? You might need to hire a bookkeeper, right? You might need to work with a business coach. You might need to take a Franklin Covey time management course and color code your Google Calendar. But I promise you, you're not going to do those things and enjoy them. You might procrastinate and self-sabotage if you have beliefs that I can't do it, this is boring, this is tedious, I'm just not good at this. If you have a bunch of those things that are operating, then it's going to be difficult to actually take action and have those massive results. So it's what do I want? What are the beliefs? And then what specific actions do I need to take?
And it's interesting, you used words that I really like ease and flow. And I was just reflecting, as you were saying, about the 3 stages, about a project I'm working on at the moment, which is a membership site around community accountability, learning and materials, but that's sort of irrelevant. That's sort of in there. But for home-based coaches and consultants, which is the people that I work with. And I've been planning this for a long time, and was quite slowly moving forward on a lot of this stuff. And then I took part in a challenge recently, actually, because I wanted to look over the shoulder of the person who was running the challenge, because she was using the membership course software that I'm using, and I actually just wanted to see how she'd set it up. I wasn't really aware of what the challenge was when I started it, which is quite funny. But the challenge ended up being writing 1,000 words in less than an hour. And I actually did take part in the challenge properly, and I ended up writing an article which was 2,000 words in less than an hour. So it was really impressive. And it was a guest from a previous show, Colette Mason, in case anyone's interested. But what was interesting is she said to write a sales page. It wasn't a sales page, but the article was about my new membership site. And I answered a number of questions, who it was for, why it was important, how it could help people, and so on. And because I did it in an hour, and I recorded it, I just spoke it, I got so excited, and I pushed through so much to that belief thing, rather than all the sort of issues that you have as you're looking to launch a new product. I'd forgotten all of those by the end of the hour, because I was doing it in such a reduced amount of time, I suppose. I sort of pressurized it all into this hour, that I was bouncing at the end of it. I was ready, I was taking action, I was doing loads of things that I'd before been procrastinating on, because when I reflect, and what you've just said, I allow things like, oh, no one will be interested, oh, it's going to be too hard to do this, oh, I don't know, whatever. And actually I felt this
it's going to be crap.
Exactly. And I felt this energy for a good week or two, directly related to that hour that I spent. And I know that was what it was about, and it was because I believed myself and I forgot to believe all the rubbish that I tell myself. But obviously, as another couple of weeks has gone on, I've allowed some of those things to creep in, and that's the challenge, isn't it? How you sort of do this work so that you continue to live with those beliefs and not allow all the stuff that we normally allow to come in and sort of wreck them.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad that you bring that up, Joe, because it's not like you're going to shut yourself in a closet and do a bunch of belief change work and then come out white light and, live like, yeah, be like, okay, I'm good. We're always evolving. And, making more money has more challenges, with people, with taxes, with organization and productivity. And so it's really more your mindset, how you approach those challenges. And one thing that I want to talk about is there is a lot of great information out there about 5 things to be more productive now, and 3 things to do in the morning before you check your email. And I just want to let you and our listeners know that all of that is great. But sometimes we find ourselves in a 2-hour morning routine where if we go on vacation and take a break from our mindset routines for a few days, we come back and we need a vacation from the vacation because we're so off kilter.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it is important to establish routines and to have repetition and learn new things to do and have them as a part of your life. But there has to be a way where you can make some of these important things an automatic part of your life, so that they are something that you don't have to think about and you don't have to make yourself do. And that is where the power of doing subconscious work comes in, because when you actually work with your subconscious and some of these things, like you were saying, I can write, you now know, you've proven to yourself you can write a 2,000 word article in less than an hour. Is when your subconscious mind has a new set of instructions, then it internalizes them and it makes it an automatic part of your life. Just like when you get up in the morning and you go to the bathroom and do whatever it is that we do in the morning without even having to think about it. And so there are people on this planet that are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars without having to think about it, because they've gotten enough positive self-enhancing programs embedded into their subconscious mind that it is just doing that and bringing that energy and the actions and the alignment and the focus and all the things that they actually need to do in their daily lives, is bringing that into line and on an automatic way. So let's be careful about piling on our plates. Oh, okay, here's all this new information. Now I'm going to do this protocol. Because at the end, if we find ourselves, doing a 5-hour protocol in the morning and another 2 hours in the evening, it's like, you feel so regimented. We want our lives to be smooth and with the flow and natural and organic.
But isn't that an example of people thinking and using sort of thoughts and plans based around those thoughts about what they should do, as opposed to fundamentally changing their beliefs? So they don't work on believing that they're a person who sleeps well, for example. They instead put in lots of things around bedtime routines and closing the blinds and all that sort of stuff, as you say, stuff, if you like, rather than necessarily changing their beliefs.
Yes. And it's when you haven't embodied a good night's sleep in a long time, you do feel disconnected, and you think that it's the routines and all the outside stuff that is going to help. And don't get me wrong, it can be very supportive. I mean, I love putting my lavender oil on before I go to bed. I love it. I've got my earplugs because my husband is not the quietest of sleepers, and but at the same time, I used to be addicted to a white noise machine. And how can you travel and spend a month in Europe like I like to and haul around a white noise machine? You could probably cue it up on your phone these days, but back in those days, so I reprogrammed my subconscious mind to be able to sleep under any circumstances. And it worked really well, because again, do we want to constantly be self-medicating, or do we want to just be?
It's interesting. There's an article that I don't know where I got it from, but it pops up on Feedly every week, which is my morning routine or something. So they interview people and they write their morning routine, and they always ask the question, how does this happen when you travel? Or, do you change your routine when you travel? And as you've said, more often than not, people do, because you just can't physically maintain that same sort of process in most cases. And it's interesting because it's almost like you're setting yourself up to compromise, knowing that for X amount, I go away quite a lot as well. For if I were to have this, as you say, 2-hour routine, I would know that probably a quarter of the year I wouldn't be able to do it. So that's sort of not quite the point, is it?
Yeah, and there's that space where we live in trying, like I'm trying,
Mm-hmm.
and then just embodying it. And let's really take an honest look at that. Is how long have you been trying? And maybe it's because you've been doing conscious methods, which aren't always reliable. And do the math. Our conscious mind works at 40 bits per second. So it can process 40 bits of information per second. And it sounds pretty impressive that you can deal with 40 things at a time consciously, but your subconscious mind can process 40 million bits of information per second. So when you do the math, you'd rather your subconscious mind be the one with the instructions and driving the wheel than your conscious mind.
Yeah. So getting on to more sort of practical questions, what about as you go about your day and your work, what tools and apps and things do you use to enhance what your subconscious is getting you to do? Did you like the way I did that?
Yeah. So I love my Google Calendar, my online Google Calendar. I've got it. It's open all day on my computer, and I have the app on my phone. And how I have it is I use a system called Calendly to schedule my appointments. So anybody, all of my clients who schedule their sessions through there, folks that want to talk with me about becoming a client, my podcast interviews, all of that goes either through Calendly, which then talks to my Google Calendar. And it's great because I just set office hours. I say, look, I will see clients on these days between these times. And I'll do podcast interviews and I'll talk with potential clients. And so if my boys have a dentist appointment, or if we're going to be going to Las Vegas here in another couple weeks, I just block it out on my Google Calendar and it talks to Calendly. And so all of my clients and anybody who wants to spend, have time with me, they just don't have those days as an option to book. So for example, I got a new client just this Monday. I went to bed Sunday night, inbox was clear, woke up Monday morning, checked my email, boom, new client. She had registered, she'd paid, she was getting ready, she was just totally set to go. And I was sleeping away like a baby at midnight while she was getting herself hooked up to move powerfully forward in her life. And I love it. It's brilliant. And so I keep everything very, very simple. I would say those are my two most powerful tools, because time is a very valuable commodity. I don't care how much money you make or how little money you make. We all have the same 24 hours a day. And if you're not managing it well, then you are going to wake up one day and wonder what the heck happened with all your time. What did you do with it? And when we're running a business, the last thing we want to do is feel like we're spinning our wheels and wasting time. So those are the two tools that really support me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a fan of Google Calendar too, and I use Time Trade for similar reasons as Calendly. I have used that in the past as well.
Yep.
And one thing, the feedback I've had in the past from people is people see us as being really professional because we just send a link and it all happens and it all sort of works, as opposed to, that sort of email backwards and forwards trying to find that one slot. I mean, we would never have been able to do it. No. If we were working on that basis. So yeah, great. Yeah. So what about sort of learning and improving yourself? We sort of talked at the beginning about how this is about changing beliefs, and it isn't just about sort of taking on board learning and creating routines and following checklist and all that sort of stuff. It is about sort of embedding that. How do you turn sort of your learning and that sort of more conscious improvement stuff into embedded subconscious learning?
Yeah. So for example, I attended a series of webinars about establishing routines in my business, so that, and I know a lot of folks listening to us, it's supposedly the end of your workday, yet it's really difficult to close everything and say, I've done enough. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was wonderful for me to listen to this information. And what I do is when I get information on the conscious level like that, I think about, well, how do I want to use this to change? And what do I need to believe? So I need to believe that I have done enough. And so I change it into a belief statement that I can then test with my subconscious mind to say, hey, subconscious mind, do you have this program that says I accomplish everything that I need to do to move powerfully forward in my business within my office hours? So that would be an example of a belief statement that I would then test with my subconscious mind. And in the Psych-K modality that I do, we use muscle testing in order to access our subconscious minds and find out which programs. And so I would just take all of the information that I learn on a conscious level, turn it into a belief statement that is in the present tense, first person form, and then do the muscle testing. If my subconscious mind says no, then that's when I say, okay, are you willing to get this new set of instructions so that when I close my computer, I don't feel tethered to it all evening long, ignore my children, be clicking around on my phone while I'm cooking dinner, all that. I did a lot of that stuff in the beginning of my business. And think about the nonverbal communication that you give to your family when you are never really done with work. It's pretty damaging, especially if you have young kids. They just learn that, hey, your computer's more important than they are. Your spouse gets the message that your computer's more important than they are. And you give yourself the message that, hey, your self-worth and your results are somehow tied to you always being on. And that's the biggest energy zapper. You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
So to be able to believe that once you walk away, that what's done is done and it's good enough is huge.
So just for people listening who don't know what muscle testing is, can you just explain that?
Yes. So muscle testing is an excellent biofeedback mechanism that we have on our bodies at all times. You don't have to go buy an expensive machine in order to find out what your brain activity is going on. And what happens really is because your subconscious mind is in control of your motor functions and is also the storehouse of your values and attitudes and beliefs, you can use it as this biofeedback mechanism. So when you do a muscle testing, it really is more testing the signal strength in your body. So it's kind of like when you've got an internet connection and you see the bars, and the closer you are to, I live out in the boonies, and so it's easy to, I'll stand in a corner of my house with my cell phone and it'll be strong, and then I'll turn an inch and then I'll lose connection. It's just as like that is you test the energetic flow in your body, and when your body senses a conflict, then you'll get a result in a weak test. So some pre-tests that I do with my clients are very simple ones, like they'll say, my name is Joe. We'll muscle test, and 99.9% of the time it'll test strong. It should test strong. You'll say, my name is Steve, and the muscle test will be weak. And so we go through a series of very clear yes or no, true or false, like and dislike, so that you can really feel what it's like when your muscle test is weak and when it's strong. So that when we actually get into testing your beliefs, then you have a really clear reading of when a belief is true or when it's not true for you.
Interesting. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. I've had some of that stuff happen. Somebody did some kinesiology, I think is what it was called, a number of years ago when I had my local magazine. I did a review for it, and recently something else where they do something with, they call it swaying, where you go forwards or backwards, which was a similar idea. Well, I think Angela's disappeared. Talking about the internet, she must have just turned slightly to the side and has now disappeared. But yeah, so a number of people probably don't know what that is and haven't had to go with it, if you like. So it's good to get that explanation. So Angela's back. We were just saying you probably had a little issue with your connection there, but we're back now, so that's great.
These things don't scare me, because I remember Rob Williams, the originator of Psych-K, getting on a podcast interview and the connection being wonky. And I just thought, okay, well, here we are talking about energy psychology, and, perfect example. Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. So last couple of questions then. Firstly, what do you do if it all goes horribly wrong, if you have a bad day? How do you deal with that?
Well, to be honest with you, sometimes I eat a lot of carbohydrates.
Yeah, good. Me too.
It's just, it's like when a day goes really wrong for me, oftentimes I'm either really in my head and need to bring myself back into my body. And when I'm really feeling bad, sometimes I go to those terrible behaviors, or even better, I'll go outside because I live in a beautiful nature and just kind of ground myself. But then there's other times when I have a bad day and I'm really feeling the anger physically in my body. My knee-jerk response is anger. Some people curl up in a ball and cry, but I want to break stuff. And it's really about just saying enough, and walking away for me. So that's what I do, is I will ground myself and be in my body, and hopefully choose healthy practices, taking a nap, taking a bath, even blowing off steam and talking with someone who will hear me out for a little bit, but not commiserate with me very much either, and just help me bring me back to, okay, what can you do? Remember, you have choices, and remembering that when I have a bad day, that's a judgment. I'm making it good or bad or right or wrong, when really having a bad day is just about getting a lot of information. I've been in a few lawsuits recently. That's a pretty bad day. But it's information, and it's showing me, where did I make the mistake? Where did I go wrong? What can I learn from this? Because when you grow bigger, you've got more people in your life, and more people means just a more variety of personalities and temperaments to work with. And that's just the way it is. That
bit about talking to somebody, but only for a limited time. You could talk to little Doddsy, my daughter Ellie, who's the co-presenter. She was telling me the other day that one of her school friends hadn't done very well at school in a particular test. Sorry, forget that. She had done really well at school, but not as well as her parents wanted her to do. There's a lot of pressure. And so Ellie apparently said to her, right, you can be annoyed about it for an hour, and then you've got to stop.
Yes.
And I thought, at 12, that's not bad advice, is it really?
Yes, totally.
So yeah, if you ever get into that situation again, just give us a call. Ellie will deal with you.
Yeah. It is good to blow it off and be like, blah, and act like a victim and blame and project, and but then it's like, okay, I am committed. I'm committed to being better. So what can I do?
Yeah. I'm mindful that you need to dash off. So last question, what about those days when you really feel like you've had the chance to live more? And that's where I talk about where you get to do the things that you really want to do, not the things that you feel you should do or you have to do. What's that day look like?
Yeah, well, I'm at a point now, Joe, where I do some planning. So I have big things. You said you live in the UK. Well, I was just in Ireland a few months ago, but we went in April, and I began planning it in November. So there's parts of the year, 2-3 times a year, where I make big plans. I buy plane tickets, I figure out how much money I'm going to need, and on and on. So I definitely have touch points throughout my year where I know that I'm going to get to go and I'm going to get to do something where I feel like I'm living more. Now, on a day-to-day basis, for me, living more is all about having my office hours. And like I said earlier, 5 o'clock hits, I shut it down and I walk away and I literally switch modes. I just switch my brain, because that is the only way that I can really, that I feel like I can live more and enjoy the beautiful place that I live, and my family around me, and the food that we're cooking, and the things that we're doing. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's how I do it, is it have the making plans to live more and
Yeah,
being
absolutely.
strategic about it, and
Yeah.
then doing it, and then on a daily basis being very clear with myself of when is enough and shutting it down.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love it. Intentional was a word I shared in a podcast recently, and I think that that speaks to that as well. It's about, as you say, planning and making it happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lovely. Brilliant. Thank you, Angela. It's been so interesting talking to you today. Really appreciate your time. How can people find out more about you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so just go to my website, angelaanderson.life. I would love for you to be a part of my community. So how to do that is you can opt in to my free training, which is about helping you reprogram your money code and the steps to take so that you can massively grow your wealth. So you can opt into that training. I also have a money code success workbook. So just figure out how to get on my email list, and that gets you a chance to be a part of my community, where I'll keep in touch with you and email you and offer you more trainings and support. And of course, if you're ready to get started right away and reprogram your money code, you can schedule your sessions, or you can schedule a time to talk with me, and we will get going and hit the ground running and get you the support so that you can move forward.
Brilliant. Thanks, Angela.
You're so welcome, Joe. Thank you.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to the link powertolivemore.com/, in this case, 113, you'll find them there. Last week I said that I'd stopped doing my newsletter and therefore didn't have the tools section. I will be adding some extra content into the podcast moving forwards once I've decided what it is. But for now, I'd just like to tell you that I'm getting there with my new community that I'll be launching soon, and you've probably heard me talking about it before. If you go to powertolivemore.com/calm, that's CALM, which is hopefully how you'll feel when you're part of the community, then you can find out more about it. But basically it's come about as a result of a lot of the work that I've been doing over the last few years, but also the survey that I completed earlier in the year about asking consultants and coaches who are home-based to share their frustrations and things that they really like about working from home as well. And I've put together an online community that, as I say, I'll be launching shortly, based around 4 areas. So you'll read, if you go to that link, powertolivemore.com/calm, their community. So being able to really connect with and share and support people within the community. Accountability, so making sure that we all get stuff done that we want to get done by using that accountability of the group and individuals through some of the activities that are in there. There's a learning section which has got tons of courses to launch with, and there'll be more coming up. And just to let you know some of the courses that are in there currently, there's one around getting started in simplifying your life. There's one about creating vision boards, simplifying and decluttering your life. Then something about outsourcing, habitual happiness, organising your home office for maximum productivity, and another one around preventing burnout. So those are all the kick-off courses that are in there, but there'll be more content coming. And as people have certain areas that they need some help with, I'll be adding to those courses. In fact, actually, I've just remembered there's another one which is about Facebook advertising as well. So it's based around all the power to live more, so productivity, organisation, well-being, energy, resilience, and my 5 fundamentals, but also there's some marketing and planning, sort of general business stuff in there too, because obviously in order to run a successful business as a home-based coach or consultant, as well as doing everything with ease and having a really nice life and getting to live more, so get to do more of the things that you want to do, it's obviously about having a successful business and actually, having customers and clients and making some money. So it covers off all of those areas. And then the 4th section of Calm is called Materials. That's what the M stands for. And that's a load of templates that you can use, download yourself to do whatever it is you might want to do. So at the moment, the kickoff templates are around planning and audience building. So some spreadsheets and some PDFs to enable you to plan how to create that audience for your business, and also a whole section around blogging, so how to draft blogs and publish blogs and think about ideas to keep you going from a blogging point of view. And there'll also be some other things in there at kickoff. One of them that I've just got that I haven't uploaded yet, but I'm just working on at the moment, is a sleep journal. So if you're thinking about your well-being and self-care, and sleep is something that you're looking at, and you want to track your sleep over a period of time, just to see what works well in helping you to sleep better and what doesn't, then there'll be a templated sleep journal that you can download and use for that. So there's a whole range of resources for you that will be there at launch, but also, as I said, moving forwards, there'll be new resources being added on a regular basis, either things that I think would be useful for people or as a result of questions and support requests from the members. If you read the information about the site, you'll know that I'm not putting a sales letter out that enables you to just sign up. I'm actually going to onboard people, to use a corporate term, so introduce people to the community via a call with me. So you don't actually go and pay your money and sign up, if you like. You actually have a call with me that of which there is no obligation to join the membership community. The call is to talk about what it involves, how it works, what you would be doing in your first month to get real value from the community, and it gives me a chance to get to know you better and introduce you to the community well as well. And until we've done that, you don't have to commit to joining or pay any money. I really want to have that conversation with you first to make sure it's the right fit for you and for me and for the community. But if it's something that's of interest, please do read the article about it, which is powertolivemore.com/calm. And if you want to get in touch, it's joe@joedodds.com. Feel free to send me an email if you want to find out more. And I look forward to telling you more about what's happening with the community and letting you know when we're actually launching in the forthcoming weeks. Again, the show notes for this week's show are at powertolivemore.com/113. powertolivemore.com/113. And we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.